try this again. Okay. So now we'll start here. So let me go over to share. We'll share my keynote real quick here. Um, so yeah, so real quick, this is a community meeting in regards to app development. We just have a quick few announcements. The first one is if you haven't already, please go ahead and fill out the skills questionnaire. You could see that under the announcements channel. I think it's also posted on the general as well. So just a quick couple minutes. We're just looking to get just some assessment of the talent and various aspects of what people can offer and would want to bring over to help create this here. So that's all I had for the announcements. So I will stop sharing. So yeah, Mike, whenever you're ready, you can take it over.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because I personally know everyone in this chat, but let's record it as from the perspective of other people that could not make the meeting. So I'll kind of run with my general agenda here.
Okay.
We could just do quick 1 minute intros for everyone that may not know each of us and our skill sets. I'm a long time developer. Um, Joseph and I have worked internally on some things here. He asked me to step up and run the dev show. Some of you watching this video after the fact have talked to me already. Um, Hopefully, you've all filled out your skills questionnaires. It's going to really help us kind of divide and conquer a couple uh, team climbs on this project. And yeah, I am looking forward to kind of building the app squad here.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I can go next. I'm
Yeah, go for it.
Joseph Simpson with Stefan Division, and I am a software developer, but not like I'm not a computer scientist. I'm not a software engineer. I don't know big, complicated things. I can make dumb little things for people who pay me money to make dumb little things. So I'm really interested in the kind of the development side of this project, and that's why I wanted someone like Mike to step up to kind of guide because I do all my software on my own. Like I don't have a bunch of shared repos and processes and stuff like that. So I'm really here to learn some of that stuff and like figure out how to work with a larger group of people on a technical project. So it'll be fun.
Steve, want to go next?
Steve Czolkowski, 3D artist for many years and not a programmer at all, but I did discover the amazing Stefan Division community probably like last summer, and it's probably been the best Discord I've ever been involved with. Meeting up every week has been really amazing. Starting to work with other people now on projects and just really wanted to see what I can contribute to this project as a 3D artist, animator, modeler. That's kind of what I can contribute to this. Don't ask me to write any Swift because I don't know how to do it. But I'm not afraid to dip my foot into Xcode and like do some stuff. So that's where I'm at.
Jimmy?
Yeah, it caught me off guard. Yeah, Jimmy Valadares. I do software development. Been doing this since about like 2019 now. So yeah, I'm really excited about spatial computing. Um, Also helping out here in the app development as much as possible, as well as doing the whole program management of the whole shared visions project here.
Um, cool. Michael, you want to go next?
Yeah, and I've had several conversations with you, Mike, and I met Joe and I met Paulo at the MIT Hackathon last year,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of fun being there. Um, I've been in VR since '96, so 30 years in the space. Apple wasn't really in VR, AR until about 2 years ago, and they really like Apple guys. They don't really care as much if you've been in the space for a long time. But honestly, it's a lot of fun, and building worlds and building content for 3 decades has been a blast. but the Apple Vision Pro device is just incredible. And I've learned that, and I knew that, I assumed that, but I now know that. And so yeah, I know Unity enough to be able to make apps and do stuff. I don't know Swift very well. I know Xcode enough to make apps and stuff. So I'm not going to contribute, I think, in any code or anything like that. But I do have a render farm and I have a small team, and I can help with 3D modeling and UI UX and 3D content. So I'm looking forward to contribute and just support you guys in any way I can.
Awesome.
Great. Mel, did you want to do an intro? I was going to leave Paolo for last. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. No, you're just listening. All right, Paolo, take us home.
I had no idea what was happening until I listened to everyone because I got distracted by a Slack message. I'm like, okay, we're doing intros. I am Paul. I'm working with the video team. Uh, been coding as old as Pascal. I have jumped from different things from C, Python, Objective-C, Swift. So I don't want to say like I'm the best and proficient, but I can read code and understand what's going on because my brain is like everywhere now. So I'm both computer science and the design and experience. So if I'm all over the place, it's just my brain is just like pulling memories from different trauma, data, memory problems, and that's just where that's coming from. Been in VR since 2014 and have not looked back ever since. Really enjoyed it because it's the conversion of all technologies, coming from a background in theater, production, multimedia, uh, editing, video editing, and production. But always love thinking about building experiences to users, so immersive storytelling. Yep, I'm here to help out.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so the purpose of this first meeting was just to kind of get aligned on where it's headed. Admittedly, as a developer, I tend to grab a hold of something and just start wildly working on it in my cave. I have purposefully not done that with this project. Sorry if my video is very choppy, but hopefully my voice sounds good. And so, and that's kind of why we came up with that skill questionnaire. We wanted to kind of assess what everyone could bring to the table and start aligning some teams to start putting this together as a group, as opposed to one or two people just kind of taking the reins and executively deciding the things that they wanted to do. And so I'd like to state again, please do the skill questionnaire because we are going to be using that for reach out purposes and kind of team alignment. Let me see my notes here. So yeah, the high level description, and I would also, I guess before I move on to the next thing, the high level ideas of what the app is going to try to achieve has already kind of been mapped out, which was sort of the first thing we were waiting on clarifying. There's no available. 18 people completed the skill assessment. That's great. There's no real content to start playing with yet, but I would like to start roughing out some user interface. I believe the UX team is kind of settling in on what they were planning on as well. And so, I was trying not to build the boat twice here.
Yeah.
So Joseph, did you want to pipe in?
Yeah, so just like kind of a quick snapshot of what's going on. The story team with Mel, we made some really good progress on kind of theme and visual design. Still some stuff to figure out there, but we've got some good directions to head down. And the UX team is kind of picking those themes up and making some concepts with them in terms of how we express those in the app. In the meantime, there's a lot we can do in the app itself, like actually creating an app, creating a repo, working on some bare bones navigation of like maybe just a window with two parts of like how to enter the experience versus how to enter the content library. as kind of two discrete places, and maybe we could gather some sample content, something that's obviously fake and we're not going to use. So maybe we can record some quick videos about a totally unrelated topic or something like that, just to give the developer team something that they can use in the app itself. That might be a good kind of stopgap.
I actually already spoke to Michael about this, and he gave me some stereoscopic demos that he was working on weeks ago. And there's one that he's graciously allowed us to use as a placeholder for some of this stuff.
If we can grab some facial and maybe some rectilinear and
yeah, having that's definitely on my checklist of things to do. One of the first things that I'd like to do in the repo is really just set up the different players and really make sure to dial those in. I know there's been talk of
Oh, Mel, I think your audio's on.
Yeah, so the probably the biggest challenge, if I can like throw the gauntlet at you, Mike, the biggest challenge from a coding standpoint is the player for inside the documentary itself. That is going to be, if we can give you half a dozen clips or a dozen clips, can you create a reality kit scene, essentially going into an immersive space that is showing video players as entities, showing and dismissing them on some kind of timeline, whether it's a Reality Composer Pro timeline or just a JSON file with timestamps, something like that, that can play from start to end, and then also figuring out how do we incorporate subtitles into that. I don't think we can use the built-in subtitle stuff in the video players because that assumes the subtitles are baked into the video, but we may have so many clips unrelated to each other, it's not really realistic. So kind of coming up with like a data structure of videos to play, videos and assets to play, maybe other cues to fire off. I don't know what those are yet, but the UX team will be giving us those. And then the accessibility track of like captions, subtitles.
Yeah, I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about this, but like I said, I've been purposefully not touching any source code on this because I do want it to feel like a team build exercise and experience. But yeah, knowing that we've got a couple placeholder videos to play with, I think is the first step. Even just I know we've talked about elements coming out of the thing or the meta balls changing, and there have been a lot of different ideas, and definitely the first version of that is get a player up, get some elements floating around in that immersive space where we can start teeing up, things happening in the video on certain time frames or timelines that initiate and clean themselves up at a trustable way. There's all sorts of little things that I think of as a developer right out of the gate, just like when you're pausing things and playing them again, how does that affect that overall timeline? And it's complete synchronization versus like things getting a little bit off. So there are definitely many things for people to play with in this realm.
Yeah, I've wondered since the beginning of this project is like, how are we going to represent that? One possible way is like a reality kit scene that just loads entities, and we use the life cycle events of the entities to kick stuff off and tear stuff down. So the timeline just calls events to enable entities and disable entities, and then the life cycle of each entity queues up a video player, it positions an attachment for the caption, maybe it fires off an animation, something like that. So like every clip, for lack of a better term, could be a discrete entity with a couple of fine things, but that's only one direction to go. That's just like you could go a totally different way of just like 2 or 3 entities that were constantly recycling and populating with different components, like a pooling system.
Right. I agree. And I've thought about this a lot. I've also thought about just like escape hatch approaches to if there are too many problems with that. there are ways to, I know we've talked about mixing the different video codecs and using them in tandem with this project. If any of those sorts of things start to go super haywire, they're just not functioning the way that we think they are, there's going to be ways, if Paolo and I got together or got our heads together to, bake in that experience. Like, let's say you've got this stereoscopic immersive experience, and then we want to utilize iPhone spatial videos in the middle of this process. And I know in a best case scenario, we're looking at like, well, I'd like to be able to pause or dismiss that entity, or maybe that's clip 1 and clip 2 follows next. And we're bringing up other entities into it. But there's also the possibility to go bake all of that stuff in as one experience. And you would never really know that one video was still playing on one singular timeline, and there was these clips of less spatialized footage coming at you being compressed into that one thing. Now obviously that's an escape hatch plan, but as a developer I'm always thinking like, when you're talking about stuff that's not in production, you always have to think like, what happens if this can't be possible, or it's so off or untrustworthy from a timeline perspective that we're never sure if those events are hitting all at the same time based on device and background tasks and stuff that's going on. So I think there are multiple ways to handle that. And it's going to really come in the near future here as we start to put together the repo. So
another really big kind of big picture problem to figure out is how do we get content into the app? So if we think about the two different types of content, there's the shared visions linear experience from start to finish that may have anywhere from like a gig to 5 gigs of footage in it. We can't necessarily bundle that in the app. So we could look into things like the different hosting providers, background apps, background assets, things like that. And then there's also like the discrete videos that I think we could just stick on a server and stream them or download them one by one as the users access them. But with the documentary itself, it would be nice if we can get the whole thing on the device before they hit play, so that it would never run into a buffering type of situation.
Right, or a large amount of it. Well, and Apple, I didn't even know about this till I was in their event in November down there, but they do offer background assets now up to 200 gigs that are hosted by Apple. And
it seems like it's going to be a pretty good option. It sounds like I mentioned it to some folks in 7 Division. A few folks have used it. It is great. Everybody loves it. It's also a pain to work with. So there's lots of gotchas. If you search for background assets in the server, you'll find some of the conversation on that. It's new to us this year. So it's kind of one of those technologies that's rough around the edges, but it's also free, which is like, awesome. Let's do it. And it can do this cool thing where, say we've got 100 megabyte app and 5 gigs of footage, we can actually set up the app where they download it from the store and it downloads the 5 gigs of footage before it lets them run the app. So it treats it as like 2 separate, we submit an app binary and footage binary, but the user still gets one big thing. And that's one way to configure it. So that could be really cool.
Yeah, that's great. I personally would really like to have an excuse to play with the background app assets.
It works with 3D models too. Like it's kind of intended for the gaming side, but I think we could really use it for video. But yeah, I think it's I think they almost purpose made it for 3D models for large games.
Paolo?
Yeah, no. Did I understand what you said, Joseph, that you're submitting a binary that could just be 100 megabytes and you could upload an asset pack that is 5 gigabytes, and when they download, it's that 5 gigabyte and that 145 megabytes in download. Is that correct?
Essentially, the app can be configured to require the background assets to run, from what I understand. And you don't have to do it that way. You could also just, discreetly, like, let me just, I want to click on a button to download this pack. You could do it that way as well. But,
okay. Yeah, I was confused how it was labeled on the App Store, if it'll say 145 megabytes or it'll say like 5 gigs.
No, I think it does it after it's already, like, the app itself is there. I I forget who was using it. It might have been Arthur. But yeah, they had definitely talked about like the background download is that like it's running on a background thread, so it doesn't have the full resources, so it can take a while.
Does that stay on the device after you use it? Because if it does, it'd have to notify you, right?
Yep, it stays on device.
Okay.
Yeah. And at any time we can lean on Apple tech that's new for this documentary, I'm gonna opt towards trying to achieve that because
And we
You know.
we have enough folks at Apple willing to help. So if we get stuck on this, I'm sure we can get some engineering support.
right. Um mm, 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 mm.
But yeah, the other spatial gen and the other streaming services are also a good idea. We may want that for some of the more ad hoc content, like longer interviews, things like that, where maybe we want to put an asset that can be reachable in the app, but also reachable via website or other things.
Mhm. I also don't know how, like you said, the more singular featurette items, I'm not sure how the binary is going to work for uploading and changing that binary, but not uploading a new app asset and going through the approval process. Like there's definitely some questions to still be asked that even I don't know the answers to. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess that kind of leads into just general next steps of the process. We'll be establishing a Git repo here in the coming week or so. We'll get some invites going out to that so people can be a part of that. And that it is part of the skills questionnaire is an email that you'd like to have invited to the process. And yeah, I guess that's the main what happens next here. I guess I would open it up to the general watching population that may not be on this call. I'd ask you to reach out to me directly, either on a channel or through DMs. I unchecked the box that lets anyone message me, so feel free to flood me with questions or concerns. And yeah, we're approaching the point where starting to architect the app is the clear next step.
Mhm.
And I just noticed in chat, Paolo was also throwing up some sample video work. So we definitely have some usable assets to start building players and to start experimenting with timelines. And yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's the high level part of this meeting. We can
So I
go into
think,
more of a discussion format at this point, I guess.
yeah. So I think Jimmy may know better, but I think our next UX meeting will be early February? Is like I think Oliver's traveling.
Yeah, I think he mentioned the 26th is that Monday. I'm gonna double check and confirm with him before I throw up the invite.
Okay. So we'll have another workshop with kind of a tie-in on the UX side, and I think by then Mel is planning to have kind of a draft of some of the interview questions. But it seems like we've got like three or four parallel tracks that will eventually all stop being parallel and we'll kind of merge together. But right now we're kind of off on separate tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Mike, so like based on that last UX meeting, did you see anything that might be a little bit too difficult, something that might not um maybe may take some more time, or I guess like what were your thoughts on that?
No, my thoughts, everything on this platform is kind of an experiment to see if you can achieve the outcome, right? And I feel like most of my last year has been that feeling inside of like, can I do this? Is this possible? But in general, I prefer for the ceiling to be set high and to try to jump and reach it versus tack on features later that require way too much rewrite of the system. So from my perspective, I kind of like that there's a lot of grasping for higher level functionality in this and trying to really wow people with the experience. And as long as everyone is in sync when, in April, when we're putting everything really together, um, that's when the rubber meets the road as far as like, does this work? Because we're all highly technical here. So it's not like it's a mystery when, something works after 2 minutes. You've got these timelines working great and there's assets flying all over the place. And now you're 36 minutes into the video and some timer's not running correctly or something's not happening. And it's outside the scope of the source code. It's the device itself or something happening. And I'm not saying none of those things will happen. But those are the realities of developing on a nascent piece of technology like this, where we're kind of making up the rules as we go. I've pretty much heard from multiple Apple Vision Pro development team. They're like, if your app doesn't crash, you can do anything you want. And that makes me want to shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not too worried at the moment.
So Apple is aware of this project and they're kind of watching it from the sidelines. When I mentioned it to some folks at the workshop in New York, they emphasized a couple of things from because I told them about the multimedia idea and things kind of being all over the place. And the one thing, two pieces of direction I got from Serenity Caldwell were try to keep people forward facing. So don't necessarily have people turning around. Think about it as a 180 experience with kind of a focus cone of activity. So we can make people look around, but we don't necessarily want to make people turn around. And then the other thing she said was, because we won't be able to use the built-in captions or subtitles, we want to make sure to do some kind of mechanism where the captions can kind of follow with them. So if you almost think of it as like an object attached to you, anchored, it doesn't need to move every little frame. Apple has one of the sample projects with like a little bit of a rubber banding effect where you move and an asset slowly moves in with you. So something like that. And she said like those two things would go a long way to being able to recommend the app if it's kind of accessible out of the box and kind of fits with the way that they think, particularly not of apps, but particularly of immersive media, of like not entirely passive, but something that it should be approachable to anybody, from standing to seated to mobility issues, of like anybody who can put this headset on should be able to experience it.
I was playing with that AV player library just the other day, Paolo.
There's a built-in subtitle display method which you can call out. I just had it by default. It has a bar so you can move it closer and back. Where it starts, I think you can predetermine, because it's a problem if your eyes are focused closer or further, and if the subtitles are rendered in a bad stereoscopic distance, you get cross-eyed
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and this is maybe a discovery question. I'm not sure if we'll be able to use the built-in players subtitle because we'll be spinning up and tearing down players constantly, essentially, between the different clips. Like as we switch from a rectilinear video to a spatial video to a 180 video to 5 rectilinear videos at once, like it's not clear which one of those owns the subtitles. And if I spawn a video over here, is my subtitle still going to spawn here, or is it going to spawn over here?
Right. Doing a head mounted, I have a lot of stuff in different apps that I'm doing head mounted text or, little helpers like look around more your room, when it can tell that something's not happening. Getting that to work out would be not hard if it came down to that. In combination with the timelines, I think it's very doable. The caption specifically does bring up another great point, is any sort of localization we can get translations for is outside of my wheelhouse. And so I guess
Yeah.
for the record, anyone that has native language support of something they would like to do translations on, that's going to be very valuable.
Yeah, in fact, one of the core parts of the project is we want people to talk in their native language. So we will probably have subtitle tracks for all users because the English language version may have a dozen other languages pop up in it. So even if it's not subtitles for everything, we may want to, somebody speaking in Chinese or Japanese, we want to show subtitles where they're speaking. So yeah, it's going to be. I think that's probably going to be the most technically challenging part of the project to get right. Like I think I can see the easy version of it, but to actually get it right and to make it flexible and accessible at the same time.
Yeah.
Great. My call notes here.
For subtitles, my plan for that, just for video editing, is to, when you have a final edit, conform it to a 2D video, which we will send to translators so they can just type the text and we will get that file and put it back to the Vision Pro. Because what we really need is what they're saying and what can be seen, even though it's not properly done, just so we can translate. And once we give the file to Mike, he can load it in, so it'll just sync.
Yeah, I think we can still use that that particular file format that they use for subtitles and captions. I think we can still use that as the data source and sync that up with the timeline mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
interesting if the AV player, can we detach that subtitle control from the actual player and be able to use it independently? Like, can we keep one as we're tearing down videos and stuff like that?
I'm gonna add that to my internal notes here.
I was like, put a reality view, because if you're in a reality kit and it is still using AV player, I'm just thinking like, how am I gonna pull that out?
Yeah. How many private APIs can we use? So, Paula, would it be helpful to get kind of a video-centric workshop on the
Yes, I
calendar?
spoke with Jimmy on this. We have something on the 19th. If everyone was okay with that, that's what we were putting it tentatively. We were trying to decide on what time would be good for people, whether it's 11 or 2 p.m. this time. 11, I think, would be easy for our folks on the other side of the world. So we might lean onto that.
Okay.
That's okay with folks, but it'll still be recorded.
Mhm. Yeah, we should definitely like push the meetings around the clock if we can to try to grab as many people as we can.
Yeah, and the next one, today I happen to have a 10 and 11 today, but normally I would try to shoot this for a little earlier in the morning on Wednesday, but it just happened that this is what worked out best. Yeah. Well, I don't
Hey,
have. Oh, who's that?
hey, Lin Xuan here.
Hey.
Hey, yeah, I would like to say I really want to join the meetings, but it's like it's 6:40 a.m. in China, and well, I happened to wake up at this time, so I could join today. I really want to say hi to everyone.
Yeah.
Well,
Great.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, we need some later meetings and we need Paolo to stay up all night and host the meeting at a different
Yeah.
time today.
I'm gonna look at World Time Buddy right now and see what's a good time in China. Are you in Shanghai?
I am in Chengdu and in Singapore, so I'm flying between those cities.
Is it Lou or Leo?
Lu.
Lou. Lou, do you want to give a quick 1-minute intro on what you've done and
Yeah,
what?
sure. Well, I am a developer and immersive video producer. Like I got the immersive video platform and some social game platform on Vision Pro, and also I got the the Blackmagic immersive camera. So
Ooh.
I also shoot some immersive videos.
Awesome.
Are you going to the Spatial Singapore event in a couple weeks?
No, I didn't manage to do that, but I think next time I will go to. Yeah, I have went to like few Singapore events in the Apple Developer Center.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to see you guys.
Yeah, and just for the team leads, feel free to like find a buddy to host a second version of some of these workshops. That was kind of my hope early on is I was trying to see if, if I hosted a community workshop at 2 p.m. Eastern, could I get somebody else to hold one a couple of days later, at a 12-hour offset or something like that. So by all means, keep nudging folks in the community if anybody wants to step up and kind of lead these discussions.
Mhm.
Cool.
Looking at the time, 3 p.m. San Francisco time is 10 a.m. Sydney time and 7 a.m. Shanghai time, compared to doing 11 a.m., which is 6 a.m. Sydney time. I didn't know y'all woke up this early, Mel, for for these meetings. It's 3 a.m. Shanghai time. I'm just using Shanghai as a foundation. So I don't know if you think 3 p.m. would be safe, which is also good for me because it fits 7 a.m. for China, 10 a.m. for Sydney, but I don't know if that works for everyone else because I know
It's
they
6
have
p.m. on the East Coast.
yeah, which is also is
I like
Oliver at another time zone in Australia? I have no idea.
he keeps his own time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we need to make the official Stephen Division time zone app or the Shared Visions time zone app just to keep everything straight.
Yeah. I'm okay with 3 p.m. Jimmy or 11 a.m. Based on like who can join because I know so Lou here can join us as well. I think 7 a.m. is fine, so he can wake up at
Yeah,
6.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so I'll put that in the books for next week, the 19th,
Yeah.
for 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, and we'll get a repo rolling here in the near future, and we'll get some links sent out to people. And I think the main focus is at the current moment just building out a couple players, experimenting with some timeline things, maybe even do a programmatic player and a reality composer player. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud.
I think
And
you can make a timeline in code relatively easily.
yeah,
There's a little bit of a
I'm
data structure.
for the uninitiated, I'm staunch opponent of Reality Composer Pro, but I am willing to change for the collective good if that ended up being the approach we took.
Yeah.
I'm very programmatic.
Mhm.
And yeah, other than that, for those watching this after the meeting, please, like I said, get a hold of me, make your interest known, go and do that skill questionnaire. Leave any questions that are irrelevant to you empty. If you don't know the answer or don't want to answer, it's totally fine.
Mhm.
And yeah, we're going to kick this off here in the near future and start pulling some hairs out of our heads.
Oh, I forgot to throw in spatial audio inside the file itself, and spatial audio that is external. So the reason why I'm just sharing that now is some of the AV players that are open source cannot read the spatial audio inside I don't know why. For some reason, I'm still trying to see why. I think their AV player is just maybe an old version. And then there's another one where you can have a separate audio file sync up with your video or your floating 3D objects. And that can be a spatial audio that's created in Reality Composer Pro. So instead of it being in the video itself. It's dynamically moving, but it's synchronized to the video, but the movement is based on how it is in the object. So I've just worked on the one in the video file, but you're able to do that because it's just different mono sources. So just
Interesting.
You know, as you said that, I actually started deving already in my head, thinking maybe the audio track is the source of truth in the grand scheme of things. Like if we know that runs 36 minutes and we can be teeing off all of these events based on that audio track playing, it should be pretty easy to query where it is in its progress.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of syncing the audio to the timeline, but yeah, treating like a master track as the source of truth. It's a way easier to play and pause one thing and then
Exactly.
play and pause events to cue everything else.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Hey, that's what these meetings are for. I like it. Building the airplane in the air. That's what we call it here.
We will run into some video delay trying to adjust the frame rate for the audio and some drops. I'm just thinking about my broadcast days because in the broadcast system we have a delay box, like a button that delays the audio because audio comes in faster than video. So we adjust it by how many milliseconds before it goes into broadcast. So that I don't know if we'll run into that, but my brain's like all over the place on that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I think it would be safer to just wrap everything in AIVU file. That's a perfect format.
Yeah. Other people will have other formats as well. So we're also
Yeah,
dealing with
well, we can convert all the different format into AIVU.
yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll just need the configuration file. I have a configuration file from the thing because yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, many options.
All right. Does anyone else have anything or concerns or things they want to bring up at the moment?
Yeah. The
There's a
POC
lot of food for thought. What'd you say, Paolo?
Mel's the proof of concepts will be revealing. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they definitely will.
And I also think as soon as we have, it's been hard to kind of post about this project because we don't have anything to show yet. But as soon as we can have a player in an app or some UX concepts, I think it's more to show on LinkedIn and social media, and it would get the people who signed up for the project but have been kind of waiting on the sidelines a little bit more energized and involved. Like, oh yeah, we're actually working on this thing now. So the sooner we can get to the point where we can start sharing some of that progress inside the Discord and outside of the Discord, I think that it will be really good for the rest of us.
Yeah, the foundation of go for it, Michael.
No, I was just going to say, I'll throw in that I don't know if you're planning on doing any meetings at all, but if you do some meetings where there's some discussion where you're using our personas, I know those are smaller meetings, but those are incredible. And I think if you're going to be capturing some footage of the making of or the sausage of the process of producing this app, that would be really helpful down the road. And I think that it is an awesome, exchange to do that stuff in the persona.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we could definitely do some small breakout groups if we wanted to, Mike wanted to gather a couple of engineers together to work on something, do some pair. Is it still pair programming when there's a group? I don't know.
Group programming. 3 people looking at the back of one person.
Pointing at the screen. Yeah, been there. Great. Well, hey, this has been awesome. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for watching. And yeah, we're looking forward to bringing some more cool stuff to the community here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mike, for your time and talking to us about that. So yeah, I will go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you.